Hey folks, it's Stephan here. Welcome to another Pathfinder adventure card game, Wrath of the Righteous episode. This week it is the Lair of the Vile and the Vicious. The evil Inquisitor Hosilla has taken control of a fearful village of mongrels by slaying their chieftain. You and your entourage represent a grave threat to her leadership. Can you turn the mongrels to your side, or will the denizens of the underworld overwhelm you? We have the same cohorts this scenario that we had the last scenario. Aniva Tirabade, Aravashanile, and Horgus Gwyrm. The villain is Hosilla. The henchmen are Wendog, Uziel, and Mongrel Traitors. During this scenario, after you attempt to permanently close a location, shuffle the henchman Cultists of Baphomet into a random open location. So we're just going to be adding a bunch of additional henchmen. I'll just go over the cohorts. Aravashanile. Recharge this card to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to any intelligence, arcane, or knowledge check by a character at your location. Bury this card to add a random spell from your discard pile to your hand. If you do this on your turn, and if you have a roll card, you may explore your location. None of us have roll cards yet. Aniva Tirabade. Recharge this card to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to any acrobatics, disable, ranged, or stealth check by a character at your location. At the end of your move step, bury this card to examine the top 3 cards of any location deck. If you have a roll card, you may put them back in any order, and you may move to that location. And finally, Horgus Gwyrm. Recharge this card to add 1d4 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to any check to acquire a boon by a character at your location. If you don't have a roll card, instead recharge this card and another boon. Bury this card to explore a location. During this exploration, add 1d4 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to your checks to acquire boons. The locations. The Armory. When you acquire a weapon, you may draw a card. The Sacristy. On your check to acquire a boon, you may roll your divine die instead of a normal die. The Mongrel Village. The difficulty of any check to acquire a card is equal to the highest difficulty to acquire a random card of that type from the box. Cavern. If you move or are moved from this location, move to another random location. And the Abattoir. The difficulty of any check to defeat a Bane is increased by the number of characters. So that's going to go up by 3. Well, Imrijka is going to start at the Armory. She's best suited to acquiring those weapons. We'll send Seelah to the Sacristy, and we're going to send Enora instead to the Cavern. So Enora's exploration, and she finds a hand crossbow, dexterity range 5. Well, she has a d6 for that, so she could get that. Now, I've removed the dice tower this time, but we're still going to be rolling dice here. Tabletop Simulator, that's a 1. And what I'm planning to do, actually, is zoom in on the dice tower so that you can see it. Alright, she did not acquire that. She's going to use Chuffy Lick Wound to explore again. And it is a Temptation of Lucre. Check to defeat none. Draw 3 items from the box. If the scenario's adventure deck number is 3 or higher, draw 3 non-basic items from the box instead. You may choose one and add it to your hand. Banish any not chosen. If you add one to your hand, the barrier is undefeated. Each character discards a card from her deck, otherwise the barrier is defeated. And I just realized I had the headphones on for just making the sound check to see that everything was working, and I forgot to take them off. So anyway, back to this, 3 items from the box. And 2 of the same thing, which are Trapsmith Gloves. Recharge this card to add 1 die to your disable check, or to your check to defeat a Bane that has the trap trait. Each character discards a card. I don't think we're going to do that. If we got something really good, then we would maybe consider it. Alright, that's going to be the end of her turn. She's sitting at 6 cards now, so we will pass play to Imrijka, who is here at the Armory. When you acquire a weapon, you may draw a card. And this is an armor, so Scale Mail, Constitution, Fortitude 4. And she has a d6 for that. And we get a 5. So we do acquire that. She will discard a blessing to explore again. And it is an athlete. Dexterity Acrobatics 7 or Charisma Diplomacy 6. Well, we can potentially make the Charisma check. We only have a d6 for that. And we get a 6. So we do make that. Acquire the ally. I bet you're going to be surprised, but I'm going to discard him to explore again. And it's a mace this time. Strength melee 4. So it's a d10 plus 1 for her. And we only get a 3. But that's actually enough, because the mace was a 4. So we get the plus 1. So we acquire the mace. And now we really have no way to explore again, right? So we're going to have to end her turn. We'll discard the mace that we just acquired. I think we'll keep the Scale Mail and drop the hide armor to get her down to 5 cards. Play goes to Seelah, who is here at the Sacristy. And it is a Holy Water Grenade. Check to acquire Wisdom Divine 6. And of course the location says you can use your Wisdom check instead of your normal die, but this is a Divine die, so that's going to be a d8 plus 1 to get that Holy Water Grenade. another non-roll. So that was a 6 total, which means we did acquire that. We're going to bury Horgus Worm to explore your location. During this exploration, add 1d4 plus the scenario's adventure deck number to your checks to acquire boons. And it is a Sage's Journal, Intelligence Knowledge 8. Well, that's not going to help us too much, is it? Because we only have a d4. So now we'd be rolling 2d4 plus 1, potentially get the Sage's Journal. Or we could use our Divine check instead, if we could remember. On your check to acquire boon, you may roll your Divine die instead of your normal die. We're going to use our d8 and a d4, and then it's going to be plus 2 for this. And that is a 4, and I think that's a 3, so that's 7, plus 2 is 9, and we needed an 8, so we did acquire that. And she will spend a blessing to explore again. Enchanted Fang, check to acquire Intelligence, Arcane, Wisdom, Divine 5. Well, we'll just stick with the Wisdom, so that's a d8 plus 1. And that is a 6, so that would be a 7 total, so that means we do acquire Enchanted Fang. Well, she's acquiring a lot of stuff here. We only have a 4 card hand size, so we're going to have to drop something. So she'll spend a blessing to explore again, and finds Padded Armor, Constitution Fortitude 2. She has a d8 plus 1 for that, so she cannot fail that check. And I guess we're going to have to end her turn now. So we're going to discard and send play back to Enora. Mongrel Wizard, check to defeat, combat, see below. The difficulty of the check to defeat is equal to the highest difficulty to defeat a random monster from the box. Before you act, the Mongrel Wizard deals 1 acid damage to you, which is kind of annoying. Recharge this card to reduce all damage dealt to you by 1. And now we have to find out what his difficulty is going to be. And, oh, it's a demonic fly, so it's 13. Well, that's a pretty tough Mongrel Wizard. And he is not immune to anything, is he? So we're going to use Force Missile. It's arcane skill plus 2d4, and we will use the Blessing of Baphomet to make that a 3d12 plus 2d4 plus 1. Plus 2 now. And all this to get a 13. And so we got 2 8s and a 4 and a 3 and a 3. So yeah, we got that. And we can check to see if we can recharge Force Missile. And we get a 2, so we will not be recharging Force Missile. And she is going to reset her hand. Play goes to Imrijka, who is still at the armory, plugging away. And she finds an Atlas, which we have encountered before. That's a strange sword weapon I've never seen before. Check to acquire, dexterity range 5. So for her, that is a d10 plus 2. And we get an 8. So we do acquire the Atlas. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your dexterity or range skill plus 1d4. You may additionally recharge this card to add another 1d4, or discard it to add another 2d4 in the piercing trait. If not proficient with weapons. It's kind of interesting. I might end up keeping it. But now this has an ability here. It says, when you acquire a weapon, you may draw a card. Well, we don't want to draw a card, actually, because we're already over our hand size, and we have no way to deal with that at the moment, so no, we won't do that. In fact, we can't explore again either. No, we'll drop the scale mail and keep the ranged weapons in hand. Play goes to Seelah, and she encounters Frigid Blast, Intelligence Arcane 4 or Wisdom Divine 6. Well, she'll stick with the Divine, so that's going to be a d8 plus 1. And we only got a 2, so we do not acquire that. She does not have a way to explore again, so she will pass play to Enora, who encounters a Potion of Striding, Intelligence Craft 4. So that would be a d12 plus 2 for her. And we get an 8, so we do acquire the Potion of Striding. Sure how much that's going to help us. She'll use the Blessing of Sarenrae to explore again. And it is a henchman, the Mongrel Traitor. Check to defeat, combat, see below. The difficulty of the check to defeat the Mongrel Traitor is equal to the highest difficulty to defeat a random monster from the box. If undefeated, bury 1 random card from your discard pile. If defeated, you may immediately attempt to close this location. Okay, so we've got to draw something from the box. Seems like all the Mongrels work this way. And it's a Worm Demon. Our friend the Worm Demon, he is a combat 10, which makes this guy a 10. The location she's at is succeeded at a strength check with a difficulty of 5 plus the Snare's adventure deck number. We'll worry about that in a second. But first we're going to use Fiery Glare on this fellow. So that is an arcane skill plus 2d4. So that's a d12 plus 2d4 plus 2. And we're going to recharge Aravashanal to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number. So now it's going to be a d12, a d6, a 2d4 plus 3. And not looking so good, actually. That's a 3, that's 5, 7, 8, plus 3. So we just make it with an 11. Not the best rolls there. But we do make it with an 11. So he's defeated. Now let's recharge Fiery Glare. It's an Arcane 10. Well, actually, let's first pull a spell out of here that we would get to recharge for playing a spell. And now we'll try to recharge this. So it's going to be a d12 plus 2 for a 10. And that just got stuck right in the corner there. That's a 9, though. So recharge that one. And this guy's defeated. And now we need to succeed at a strength check with a difficulty of 5 plus the scenario's adventure deck number. So that'll be a 6. And she does have a d6 for strength. And we do have a blessing. Nobody else has a blessing. So we're going to use the blessing of Abraxas. After playing this card, if the top card of the blessing's discard pile has the corrupted trait, discard a card. This one might. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay. So that would be 2d6 to get a 6. And we get a 7. So we do make that check. Which means that this location is going to be closed. On closing, move to a random open location. Okay, so we will roll a d8. And we're going to go to 4, which would be the second location. So we'll go over with Seelah. And now we have to resolve the scenario effect, which is after you attempt to permanently close a location, shuffle a henchman Cultists of Baphomet into a random open location. And I haven't pulled any of those out, so I'll get those. Alright, so we're going to roll another d8 and see where this one goes. And it goes into location 6. Alright, that's Enora's turn. She's going to reset her hand. Play goes to Imrijka, who is still here at the armory. Encounters a quarterstaff, strength melee 3. So that's a d10 plus 1 for her. And she gets a 9. So we do acquire that. And this gives us the ability to draw a card, but I don't want to because we're already over our hand size now, and we still don't have a way to explore again. So she's going to have to just ditch that. Passing play to Seelah now, who is here at the sacristy. And she encounters a potion of night vision, intelligence craft 5. Banish this card and choose a character at your location. That character may examine the top 3 cards of a location deck, then shuffle it. It's what the looking glass used to be, or a spyglass or something. So, intelligence craft 5, but she can use her divine skill, so that would be a d8 plus 1. d8 plus 1. And we get a 4, which is a total of 5. So I think we do acquire that, right? Yes, we do. Examine the top 3 cards of a location deck, then shuffle it. So it's really only helpful if there aren't that many cards in the deck. In fact, it would be reasonably good for this deck, because there's 4 cards in it. So let's use that right now. Banish this card and choose a character at your location. That character may examine the top 3 cards of the location deck, then shuffle it. Well, I'll choose myself. We get a Blessing of Plurara. We get some other boon, and we get a weapon. A lance. So that means that that last card is the henchman or the villain. So unfortunately we didn't get the information we were hoping to get there. She does not have a way to explore again. Play goes to Enora. Enora really should move somewhere else and start working on it. I think she'll move to the Mongrel village. The difficulty of any check to acquire a card is equal to the highest difficulty to acquire a random card of that type from the box. Oh, and it's the Cultists of Baphomet. Interesting, because now that we put this in here, doesn't that make it easier to close locations? After you attempt to permanently close a location, shuffle the henchman Cultists of Baphomet into a random open location. So it's not like it's a summoned card, so I would think that the text of the powers counts. So it would say, if defeated, you may immediately attempt to close this location. Well, first let's resolve the rest of it. Difficulty of checks to defeat the Cultists of Baphomet is increased by the scenario's adventure deck number. Choose an 11. Before you act, if this is your first exploration of the turn, Cultists of Baphomet deals 1 combat damage to you. Well, that's annoying, but we'll take it on the potion of striding. If undefeated, shuffle the top card of the Blessings deck into your location deck. If defeated, you may immediately attempt to close this location. So I think that counts. It's not a summoned card. And then we'd have to fight a Mongrel Traitor. So the question is, do we have the spells to be able to pull this off? And I think we do, because we have both Life Drain and Frigid Blast. Mongrel Traitor's not immune to anything, and the Cultist of Baphomet is not immune to anything. So it's right now it's a combat 11, and we're going to use the Life Drain. For your combat check, discard this card to use your Arcane or Divine Skill plus 2d4. Shuffle one random card from your discard pile into your deck. Let's do that. This is not a demon, so it's just going to be d12 and 2d4 plus 2. We have a Demon Hunter handbook that doesn't help. Oh, wait, Cultist. This is a Cultist, isn't it? Yes, so we can use the Demon Hunter's handbook. Recharge this card to add 1d4 plus the Bane's adventure deck number to your check against the Bane that has the Cultist or Demon trait, and we potentially have a chance to recharge that as well. Now, yeah, this was just from the base set, so it's going to add a d4, but not too much more than that. So, a d12, 3d4 plus 2. Oh, we get a 4, and 2 1s, so that's 10. Plus 2 is 12, and it was an 11, so we did defeat this. And I read it such that we would be able to close this location now, because the Cultist is a henchman. And to close the location, we have to summon and defeat a henchman Mongrel Traitor. But first, let's resolve our recharges. We need an Arcane 9 to recharge this. It's a d12 plus 2. And we get 6. So we did not recharge Life Drain, but we'll get it back because it's a spell. And for this one, we need a knowledge check with a difficulty of 5 plus twice the Bane's adventure deck number to reveal this card instead of recharging it. Oh, okay. So that would be a d12 plus 3 for us. And we get a 10, so we do reveal that instead. And now we have the fight with the Mongrel Traitor. To do that, we have to defeat, find out what the difficulty of a random monster is. And it's the Worm Demon. There must be a lot of Worm Demons. Okay, so he's a 10. We're going to use Frigid Blast, but Imrijka is going to give us a blessing. So we're going to be making this 2d12 plus 2d4 plus 2 to get this Mongrel Ranger, which is a difficulty of 10 right now. And let's see. Whoa. That's a 6 and a 6, so that's 12 already. A 2 and a 1. So yes, we defeat him, which means that this location will close. When permanently closed for the rest of the scenario, the difficulty of checks against cards that have the Mongrel trait by characters at any location is decreased by 3, which is nice. But now we have to find out where the next Cultist of Baphomet is going to go. And to do that, we'll roll a d6, because there are 3 open locations, so d6 is the die, and it's a 6. So Cultist will go here to the abattoir. Actually, we need to make sure that the villain is not in here. And it wasn't, because there's a Mongrel Traitor in there. So now we're going to first take Life Drain back as a recharge. Then we're going to attempt to recharge Frigid Blast, which will be a d12 plus 2 to get a 6. And plus 2 is a 6, so we got a 4 there. So we're going to recharge Frigid Blast as well. And we will reset her hand to 6 cards. And pass play to Imrijka. So Imrijka, still at the armory, finds leather armor, Constitution Fortitude 2. That's a d6 for her. And she gets a 2, actually, so she does acquire that. Doesn't have a way to do anything else, though, so she's going to pass play over to Seelah, who's still here at the sacristy. And she finds a henchman, Wendog. Monster check to defeat, see below. The difficulty of the check to defeat Wendog is equal to 1 plus the highest difficulty number of a random monster from the box. Ooh, what's this one? Yikes, it's a Wrecker Demon. Okay, so that's 14. No, now he's 50. Before you act, he deals 1 range combat damage to you and a random other character at your location. Well, there's no other one at our location, so we will take that 1 random damage. If defeated, you may immediately attempt to close the location this henchman came from. And what is the closing cost? Succeed at a Divine 7 check or discard a card that has the Divine trait. Well, we'll actually could do that because we have Cure in our hand. Succeeding a Divine 7 would be quite tough. Anyway, let's deal with the fight. So he's a 15. We have a long spear. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your strength and melee skill plus 1d8. If you fail this check, you may discard this card to re-roll the dice, take the second result. So that would be 2d8 plus 3. Then we're going to add a d4 from the Sage's Journal. And Imrijka is going to give a blessing. And let's see, we've got it has to be a 6. It's a d8. So that's a 6, that's 10, 12, 14 plus 3 is 17. So we do defeat him. And then we have to succeed at a Divine 7 check or discard a card that has the Divine trait. I think we're just going to discard the card because that's a sure deal here. On closing, add one of your buried cards to your hand. That's this guy. We actually did have a buried card, so that was useful. We're going to recharge her hand. This is closed. Now we need to find out Cultists of Baphomet. Because the d4 rolling is a little wonky, I'm going to just roll a d6 for this, and we'll do 3 and 3. And we got a 5, so it is going to go into this location. There's already one Cultist of Baphomet in there, so now we've got 2. That is the end of Seelah's turn. She's going to pass play to Enora, who needs to move. Oh, and right, she would have gotten an extra 3 on that guy because he was a mongrel. Forgot about that effect. Anyway, Enora needs to move. She's probably going to go to the abattoir, I guess, even though it's most likely the least pleasant place here. And she doesn't really have anything in hand to fight with. But I don't think she is going to explore. She's just going to reset her hand and at least gets Force Missile. So now she's got a spell. Well, one offensive spell and then Create Pit. I think I might get rid of Create Pit, honestly, because I don't really like evading. I'd rather just fight them. Anyway, that's her turn. She's going to pass play over to Imrijka, who's still at the armory. 4 cards here, and is a Steel Shield. Constitution Fortitude 5. So a d6 for her. And she gets a 6. So she acquires another piece of armor. Where are all the weapons? She doesn't have a way to explore, so she's going to ditch leather armor. And we'll send play over to Seelah, who also needs to move, and she will move to the abattoir with Enora. She has a blessing and a weapon, so she's going to explore. And it's a mongrel wizard, so I think it was good that Enora did not explore. Difficulty of this check as well. So first we have to get a random monster from the box, as usual with a mongrel. And the Pitborn Scoundrel, so he is a 12. He's a 12, but because of the effect of the mongrel village, you're decreased by 3. So he's only a 9 now, but first he's going to deal 1 acid damage to me, which we're going to take on Hergus Gorm, actually. And he's going to deal another damage to us, which is kind of annoying, but he's a 9 right now. So we've got our long spear. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your strength and melee skill plus 1d8, so that'll be a 2d8 plus 3. Oops, and I threw it outside. And we got a 4 and an 8, so that's 12 total. Sorry, it's not 12 total, it's 15 total. So we defeat him, and he deals a poison damage to us, which... Let's take it on the long spear. I'm sure we'll get another weapon. Oh, actually, this balances out that positive effect anyway. Difficulty of a check to defeat a Bane is increased by the number of characters, so it went up by 3, and the Mongrel Village takes it down by 3. So he would have stayed the same, actually, which was a 12, but we got a 15, so we were all set. Gotta remember that. You know, I even wrote a 3 here, and yet I didn't remember it. She could explore again, but that would be crazy. So she will reset, and unfortunately doesn't get a weapon. Or I was so certain that she would. Play goes back to Enora. She'll explore. Finds Bolas. Dexterity range 5. She has a d6, strangely enough, for dexterity. And she does not get the Bolas. She could explore with the Demon Hunter. I guess she should. Keep exploring here. This is going to give us d6 to checks against Banes that have the demon trait, should we encounter such a thing. But we do not. We encounter a force short bow plus 1, which is a dexterity range 10. Cannot acquire without someone giving us a blessing. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your dexterity or range skill plus 1d6 plus 1. You may additionally discard this card to add another 2d4 in the force trait. It would be a good weapon for Imrijka, I think, but let's see. Seelah will give her a blessing. Well, we'll just do the regular blessing. So now that would be 2d6 to get a 10. And we get a 5. So we do not get that. Didn't really think we would. And that's going to be the end of her turn, so she'll reset. Play goes to Imrijka. And she finds another henchman, Hosilla. Check to defeat combat 10. All damage dealt by Hosilla is fire damage. If you are the only character at your location, the difficulty to defeat Hosilla is increased by a 1d6. And we get a 1. She goes up to an 11. If defeated, you may immediately attempt to close the location this henchman came from. Now this is a demon. So let's see, do we have anything that's going to help with a demon? Well, no, but we can use Anivia Tirabade. She'll help with the check anyway. So I'm going to use my hand crossbow. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your dexterity or range skill plus 1d6. If you're proficient with weapons, you may additionally recharge another weapon that has the range trait to add 1d8. So we're going to do that with the composite bow. We're also going to recharge Anivia Tirabade, and she's going to give us another 1d6 plus the Snare's Adventure deck number. So now we'll be rolling a d10, a d8, 2d6, plus 3. Plus 3. And we get that's a 10, and it's got to be a 6 rather. So 16, 19, plus 3 is 22. So we defeat Hosilla. Summon and acquire a random weapon. Random weapon is a quarterstaff, strength melee 3. So a d10 plus 1 for us to get that. And we get a 6, so we definitely acquire that. And we close that location. There's no effect when permanently closed. She'll reset her hand. Okay, so now we know the villain is here at the abattoir. Play goes to Seelah. She doesn't have a weapon, so she is going to just recharge her hand. She gets a weapon now, a long sword. Now we'll play over to Enora. And we have quite a few cards here because there's... Oh wait, so now we have to put another Cultists of Baphomet in here. So now there's 3 Cultists of Baphomet in here. Pretty good odds of encountering one of those. Like I said, combat 10. Difficulty of checks to defeat the Cultists of Baphomet is increased by the Snare's Adventure deck number, plus she's going to go up by 3 anyway. So now it's a 14. Before you act, if this is your first exploration, she deals 1 combat damage to you. Well, we've got our Scale of Resistance. Recharge this card to reduce all damage to you by 1. Okay, so combat 14. We're going to use Force Missile. We're also going to use the Demon Hunter's Handbook because she's a cultist. Seelah's going to give her a blessing, so she'll be rolling 2d12, 2d12 and 3d4 because of the book there, plus 2. All this plus 2. So that's 8, 9, 12, no, 13, sorry, and 15. 15 total, so we do manage to defeat the Cultists of Baphomet. We would be able to close the location, but we're actually not going to because Enora cannot fight the Brimarack. Now we'll check if she recharges Force Missile. The d12 plus 2. And she does not recharge it because she gets a 1. So Force Missile goes away. She needs to make a Knowledge check. So d12 plus 3. No, sorry, actually d12 plus 4, because I have that new plus 1 there. So it's a 10, that's 14. She will reset her hand, pass the play to Imrijka, who's going to move over to join the party, and she will explore. And she finds a Mandragora plant, combat 11, but actually going to be a combat 14. He's immune to mental and poison. If the check to defeat has the electricity trait, the difficulty is increased by 3. If undefeated, a random character at location is dealt combat damage equal to the number of cards that have the attack trait and weapons in your hand. Oh wow. Well, we have the hand crossbow or we have the quarterstaff. I think we'll use the hand crossbow. So that's going to be a d10 and a d8 and a d6 because we're going to recharge the other hand crossbow. Question is, should we use our Blessing of Baphomet? Because he is a 14. That'll give us 2 more dice. Alright, that was our first exploration. So yeah, well, let's get 2 more d10s. And let's see, that is going to be a 6, that's a 10, 13, 15, and 18 plus 2, so 20 total. And we do defeat the Mandragora. And it's Imrijka, so she can roll a d6 to see if she gets to explore again. And she gets a 4, so she does get to explore again. And it's the temptation of a big die. Check to defeat none. Display this card next to your deck. The barrier is defeated. You may banish this card to roll 2d20. The higher result, add the higher result to your check, then bury a number of cards from your hand, discard pile, and deck equal to the lower result. It's so dangerous that I can't imagine using that. Okay, she resets her hand, doesn't have a way to explore again. Play goes to Seelah. Still have 7 cards in here. And it's another Cultist of Baphomet. Okay. Before you act, if this is your first exploration, she deals 1 combat damage to you, which is annoying. Difficulty of... Okay, so she goes up to a 15. No. She goes up to a 14, which is still pretty tough. We have the longsword. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your strength and melee skill plus 1d8. You may additionally discard this card to add another 1d6. Well, we probably don't want to discard our only weapon since we then have to fight the Brummerak anyway. And we do have the Sage's Journal, so we get a plus d4 out of that. So then you're looking at 2d8 plus a d4 plus 3. We're finally going to use Seelah's power, which says you may discard the top card of your deck to add 1d6 to any check by a character at your location. So we're going to do that. Of course it was a weapon, but that gives us another d6. Now rolling this plus 3 to get a 14. Uh-oh. Out of bounds. I didn't even think that was possible with this. Okay, so that's a 2, that's 10, that's 16, that is 18, plus 3 is 21. So we do defeat the Cultists of Baphomet, which means we would have a chance to close the location. He's immune to electricity and fire traits. The difficulty to defeat Brummerak is increased by twice the scenario's adventure deck number, so he's actually going to go up by 2 from that, which puts him at 14, and then he's going to go up another 3 for the abattoir, so it puts him at a 17. After you act, if the check to defeat Brummerak had the piercing or slashing trait, he deals 2 fire damage to you. Well, our base is going to be the same. It's going to be a 2d8 plus a d4. And we're going to do this discard thing again. It gets us a d6. Now we need a little more help here because he's a 17, which is pretty hefty. So Imrijka's going to spend a blessing. That gives us another d8. I don't think Enora can do anything helpful. So it has to be this. All this to get a 17. And we do have that guy that will let us reroll. So that's good. Okay, of course we got 2 1s. That's never good. That's a 10, that is 13, that's a 3, so that's 16, plus 3 is 19, so we do actually defeat him. Brummerak, now he's going to deal 2 damage to us, unfortunately, so we're going to take that on this and keep that sword in our hand. But that would close the location, except we know that the villain's here. So we're going to search for the villain. There's the villain. There's another worm demon. Those guys are everywhere. Oh, the giant maggot swarm and arboreal blight. So, boy, we ended up not having to encounter some pretty bad stuff there. That's the end of Seelah's turn. We know that the villain's here, but she does not have to encounter her. So she is going to reset. And play would go to Enora, who may or may not be the best one to fight this. Too bad we're fighting her at the abattoir, because she goes up by 3, making her a 16. All damage dealt by Hosilla to characters that have the human trait is increased by 1. Before you act, Hosilla deals 1d4 combat damage to a random character at your location. After you act, she deals 1 combat damage to you. So we have plenty of blessings. We could cycle through and get everyone into really good shape, and I think that probably is the wise thing to do. So Enora might as well use her Sacred Prism. Bury this to shuffle 1d4 cards from your discard pile of a character at your location into their deck. Probably better to do it for Seelah, actually. So 1d4... And we got 3. 3 cards from this discard into Seelah's deck, which gets her at least enough cards to be above her hand size. She's not going to need Create Pit, she's not going to need Chuffy, and she's not going to need Brilliance. So she'll discard those and reset her hand. Actually, maybe that was too much. Let's keep Brilliance. Even still, actually, she couldn't. If she took full damage, she would be in tough shape. But there should only be one round here. So this would have been over from Seelah over to her. Alright, so Enora's in decent shape. She could totally take on Hosilla. Now we go over to Imrijka. Imrijka's got some good stuff, but I think she's going to ditch that quarterstaff and draw 2 new cards. So she gets Cure. That's another spell that she could use. Play goes over to Seelah. And she has this Blessing of Abraxas, which isn't super for her. You really should give that to Enora. I guess it does help with a Divine check too, but she doesn't make that many. Alright, so it's combat 16. Before you act, she's going to deal 1d4 combat damage to a random character. So is Seelah the person to deal with this fight? I suspect not, because there are really no blessings other than the one she has, which would be a better blessing to play for Enora. So nope, we're going to send it over to Enora, and Enora is going to take this fight. Alright, before you act, 1d4 combat damage to a random character. So we'll roll a d6 to see who that random character is. And of course it's going to be Enora. That's unfortunate. 1d4 combat damage. At least she has a big hand size though, because of course we rolled a 4 for that. So she will die if we don't succeed. That's not good. What are we going to get rid of? She's not a demon. She's not a cultist. So the Demon Hunter's Handbook doesn't help us. Brilliance doesn't help us. And we only need 1 spell. So that was, what, 3? And we're going to use Life Drain as the spell. So we'll ditch this. We're going to use this guy. So 16. This is going to be a combat check. Discard this card to use your Arcane or Divine skill plus 2d4. Shuffle a random card from your discard pile into your deck. So that is a d12 plus 2d4. Imrijka is going to give us the Blessing of Abraxas. Discard this card to add 2 dice to any Arcane or Divine check, which is now going to give us 3d12. And it does say after you play this card, if the top card of the Blessings discard pile has the corrupted trait, discard a card. And this does. It's the of Baphomet. So we'll have to do that, and then we're going to have to discard a card, which will discard the Scale Mail. We're going to use this guy. Recharge this card to add 1d6 plus the scenario's adventure deck number. It's going to be another d6 coming in, plus another 1. So all this plus 3. Plus all this plus 3. It's all jumbled together, so that's not great. Well, that's a 12. That's a 3. That's a 6. So there's 18, 21, 26, 29, and 32. 32 points of damage to Hosilla. That was an epic life drain, apparently. She is going to deal 1 damage to us, which we don't have any cards to take, so we don't have anything to discard. But she has nowhere to go. She cannot escape, and she is therefore defeated. And we get the loot of Radiance and a scale of your choice. Well, you've already seen the scales. What you haven't seen is Radiance. It's a sword. For your combat check, reveal this card to use your Strength and Melee skill plus 1d8. You may additionally discard this card to add another 1d6 and have the scenario's adventure deck number. If you have the Paladin trait, add an additional 1d4 plus 1. If not proficient with weapons, difficulty is increased by 4. Well, of course, we're going to give it to the Paladin. Definitely right into her deck. Alright, well that was pretty good. Didn't get too much down to the wire except for the fact that Enora would be dead if she had to reset her hand, but she doesn't, so that's fine. And next time, I'm going to be back with tracking down Templars. But when this gets posted, I will be on vacation, so I won't be able to address any feedback for a couple of days. Alright, well thanks for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you know when I'm posting videos in the future. And I will talk to you next time.